Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Emma. In today's video I want to talk you through all the books that I'm planning on reading in spring. Now I know we are already about a month or so into spring. However, I still want to film this video because really in March and April I had a bit of a reading slump. I got married in the middle of April. The weeks leading up to the wedding I just didn't really have the brain capacity to sit down and concentrate and read, so I didn't read as much as I want to in March and April. I have read one book in spring which I will talk about, but then I wanted to also talk about the other books that I'm planning on reading in the coming month or so. Yeah, just share them all with you in a little video. But the first book that I want to mention that I have actually read is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I picked this up back in March and I will say it did take me a little while to get through it. I think when I first started reading this I wasn't really in the mood to read, like I said. I also did have to take a little break about a third of the way through because I had a book I had to read for book club, so it did take me a little while to get through it, but I did still really enjoy it, and every time that I did pick it up I was really enjoying the story. I will say it's quite a sad story. It follows a young boy called Theo Decker who tragically loses his mother in a catastrophe, and at the same time as losing his mother he becomes in possession of a painting called The Goldfinch, which is actually a real painting, which I thought was really interesting. And it just kind of follows him through his life, through teenagehood up until his like early mid-20s, I would say. It was really gripping. It was really interesting. What I really liked about this story is obviously because of the life situation that he's dealt, Theo becomes a bit of a questionable character who doesn't always make the best decisions, and he's not always the most likable person, but I was still rooting for him throughout this whole book. I will say it is quite sad in parts. There is a lot of devastation that he experiences at a very young age and throughout the book, not just through the loss of his mother. But it's really interesting because it kind of follows his life and how one moment really impacted him and how his life went, and yeah, just also the hold this painting has on him. And yeah, it's a really good book. I really enjoy Donna Tartt's writing. I think the way she writes, the details, I just really love. I've only ever read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I actually think I preferred this to The Secret History. Just because it kept me engaged throughout, whereas The Secret History for me had a little bit of a lull in the middle. But I really enjoyed it. I actually have picked up her other book to read. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it'll probably be more of like an October read because it looks quite spooky. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I will say it's quite chunky, it's quite long. It's about 865 pages, which whilst it took me a while to read, I don't feel like it dragged. Like, I felt like those pages were used well, and every page was about Theo's development and his life as he grows, and I just really enjoyed following him through the story. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, so I definitely recommend if you are in the mood for something quite chunky and long, something you can sink your teeth into. This was really good. I really enjoyed it. Okay, and then moving on to the books that I am yet to read and want to read this spring. The first book is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. After reading The Goldfinch, and I am currently also reading The Four Winds for my book club, which is quite a heavy read as well, I just feel the need for a very light, easy romance, and I had this on my shelf. I picked it up a little while ago and I thought this would be the perfect read. It's about two kids, Wes and Liz, who are in their senior year of high school, and I believe it's a fake dating trope. I'm not really sure because obviously I've not read it, but yeah, I just feel like I need a nice, easy, light read, and I've heard good things about this. I think also because it's a YA, it's going to be very cutesy little teenage romance, which I just feel like I need. Also, it's not very long, and like the font is like quite big, so I feel like I can get through this quite quickly. And yeah, I just kind of feel like I need a light, happy little teenage romance to get me through, so I'm actually quite excited to read this. I believe she's got like a follow-up to this, which is interesting. Oh yeah, Grumpy Sunshine and Boy Next Door feels, which yeah, just sounds perfect. Exactly what I need right now, so yeah, I'm excited to read that. And then the next book that I have on my spring TBR, I've wanted to read for ages. I've mentioned before, I do want to read some classics, and this is one that I've wanted to read for a while, and it is Emma by Jane Austen. I won't lie, part of the reason I do want to read this is because it is my namesake. I have only ever read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which I did really enjoy, and I felt like it was a good introductory into Jane Austen for me, because it was a story that I'm very familiar with, because I've seen both the Keira Knightley adaptation and the Colin Firth adaptation multiple times. However, I'm not really that familiar with Emma. I've never watched any of the adaptations. I do believe Clueless is meant to be like a modern retelling of Emma. So I know loosely like some things, but I'm not familiar with it as I was with Pride and Prejudice. So I'm really excited to read this. I've heard a few people say this, but I really do feel that Jane Austen just gives spring vibes to me. What to say? Emma is young, rich and independent. She has decided not to get married and instead spends her time organising her acquaintances' love affairs. Her plans for the matrimonial success of her new friend Harriet, however, lead her into complications that ultimately test her own detachment for the world of romance. So yeah, I do think it is a romance book. I'm really excited to read this. It looks quite long and looks quite daunting, I think, being a classic. I think sometimes classics can seem a bit daunting, but I mean the writing doesn't take up like a whole page, as if you can see. So I'm excited to read this. I think it's going to be a really nice spring read, and like I say, it's a book that I've always wanted to read, and I do want to try read more classics. And yeah, then maybe I will read some other Jane Austen, because I'm not really that familiar with the other ones either. I will then probably watch an adaptation, so if you have a favourite adaptation, because I know it's been done a couple of times, let me know in the comments below. As a classics, I feel like Jane Austen is a good starting point because I feel like she is accessible and the stories do interest me. So I'd like to give this a go. Okay, and then the next book that I want to read is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harper. My plan for this really is to sit and read it in one day because it's only short. It's only 200 pages, I think. So I'd like to sit and read this on one spring day. Maybe like a rainy, stormy day when I'm stuck indoors. I think this would be really nice to read. We also do have like a little cabin holiday coming up at the end of the month, so I might take this there and read it there. I think that would be quite nice. But yeah, I've heard a lot about this and I've been really intrigued for a little while. But yeah, it's about a group of women who are imprisoned in a cage underground, watched over by guards. They have no recollection of how they got there or why they're there or their lives before they were in this cage. And then one day they get a new prisoner and everything changes. I'm really intrigued because, like I said, it is a short story. I've not really read many short stories, so I'm intrigued because obviously you're not going to get as much information as you would with a book that's obviously 400 pages. So I'm really intrigued to read this. I've heard really good things about this and I do want to get into more short stories. So I feel like this is going to be a good introduction because I've heard really good things. And also because I feel like the other two books are quite like light, happy, romancy books. I think it would be nice to switch it up with something a little bit darker and more mysterious. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. And then the last book on my list to read for spring is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein by this author last year and I really enjoyed it. I know it was a bit more divisive, but I really enjoyed the writing. Yeah, I'm really intrigued to read this book. It's been on my list ever since it came out. I believe it is about a group of sisters who are coping with the death of one of their other sisters. Yeah, there's 4 sisters, one of them passes away, and it's about the 3 sisters reuniting and coping with the death of their sister, which sounds really intriguing to me. I really love reading about like close relationships, whether they be romantic or familial or friendship. So yeah, I really love books about relationships and I felt like she did that really well in Cleopatra and Frankenstein. And I did notice that I've got quite a few books on my list to read which are about family members dealing with the death of another family member, so I'm trying to space them out. Yeah, it just sounds right up my alley. I really love books that are more based on relationships. They don't even necessarily need much of a plot, just focusing on the relationship between a few characters. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. Also, I know it doesn't matter, but this cover is stunning. I love that. It looks like a painting. And like this blue, it just gives spring vibes to me. So yeah, also with my other books that I've got, like I said, I've got like the 2 romance reads. I felt like it would be good to have something a little bit different just to switch it up, because I like to like switch it up a little bit so I'm not reading things that are too similar. I just needed a good literary fiction in the bunch, so this is my choice for spring. But yeah, that is it for my little spring reading list. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know book videos aren't for everybody, but I do just enjoy sitting down talking about books. I've really got my passion for reading back in the past couple of years. But yeah, if you want any updates on how I'm getting on, I will leave my Goodreads link down below. I do also have a Fable, but I've not really been updating that. So yeah, probably best to follow me on Goodreads if you're interested in knowing how I'm getting on. If you have any book recommendations for me based on these things that I've talked about, do let me know in the comments comments below. I know, like I said, I'm on a book buying ban, but I'm always up for taking recommendations from people. If you did like this video and you do enjoy book videos, please do give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you all next week for a brand new video. Goodbye.